I don't know why I applaud for myself, I guess. So real quick story before I go, story time. This presentation might end up seeming a little bit haphazard to you, but there's a reason for that, and one that Cass alluded to this morning. Without going into too much detail, myself and my friend Totoro here were assaulted by the night manager of a hotel last night. And I ended up spending a lot of the time that I was going to be preparing my beautiful slides waiting for the police to file a report. So that's cool, but Totoro and I made it out alive. So, you know, it could have been worse. Also, I have stickers, trendy, you know, tesselatable. Is that a word, tesselatable? You know, node idiomatic stickers. So if you want some, come up here and you can get some. Or you can talk to me later if you're shy. Anyway, so on we go. My name is Emily Rose. You can and should follow me on Twitter at nexilove. I'm a developer advocate now somehow. I used to work at Particle. Now I work with Losant. You'll get to see a little bit more about both of those companies here in just a couple minutes. I also like to kind of introduce myself a little bit, just to kind of, you know, eat up some of that time and not have to worry about filling it out with real content. So, hi, my name is Emily Rose. I'm an intersectional transhumanist, which is just a really fancy way of saying feminist without getting some people all worried about what that means. My preferred pronouns are plural they, so figure that one out. And I'm the nicest person that you will ever meet. I'm also an IoT and ambient computing enthusiast, and I'd love to talk to you about that after this talk if you are as well. And I'm also from Portland, Oregon, which probably explains a lot. And so this is what I look like on the internet, and then this is what I look like when I'm taking selfies for my friends on Snapchat. And so the title of my talk, now that we've got all the introductions out of the way, we're all well acquainted. Hello, how are you all?
Good.
Not good. Lunch coma, huh? OK. So yeah, the title of my talk, say it all together with me now. The Internet of Things and Developer Happiness, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Connected Devices. Can we do that one more time? Because you guys are a little... It was a little... One more time, with gusto, as they say. Oh. OK, all right. Moving on. So, thank you. So here's the problem, right? We're all developers, right? Show of hands, how many of us consider ourselves developers? OK, cool. So like almost all of us. So here's the problem, right? As developers, software development requires focus. And this is me trying to look focused in front of my computer. But in direct opposition to that, digital communication demands your attention, right? So we find ourselves feeling much like Natalie Imbruglia, circa 1990. You know, we're torn, right? We're torn. So what do we do, right? What do we do? Well, first I want you to take the freedom here. Just take a look at this white space and imagine, if you will, the logos of all of the social media platforms and communication tools that you use on a daily basis, right? There's probably a few of them. For me, it looks kind of like this, right? Pretty standard, fair. Do you see anything missing? Anything missing? Major component? Pretty big part of my day, right? So with all this stuff going on all the time, you know, I'm trying to hang out in Sublime Text or Atom or Vim or Emacs, whichever one of all the editors that I use all the time. You know, it's a constant struggle, right? And it makes you feel like you just want to say, fuck, right? And so it's tough, you know? It's enough to make you feel like a basket case. Tough crowd, because I mean that's a really good. It's come on, Green Day. Okay, thank you. Oh, you can't see him. Oh, well, it's Billy Joel in the background singing. So anyway, so what do we do, right? What do we do about this? How do we focus? And this was actually the one slide I couldn't figure out a good picture for. So it's like the standard. But it kind of makes sense, right? These people are standing on the precipice of greatness. They're looking over the chasm of, I don't know, I'm just making that up. So anyway, so what we do, right, it's closing time. When we want to focus, sing it with me, Closing time. Yeah? You don't have to go here or go home, but you can't stay here. Right, and here in this context is like as an active application on our desktop, right? So the solution is to be like Madagascar, right? Shut down everything. It's a little pandemic joke for those of you that are into Flash games. So like that sounds crazy, right? Like how can you stay in touch as a developer and maintain that connection with your fellow coworkers and make sure you're not developing yourself off into some tangent or silo while still being able to focus? Well, the reality is this is kind of a crazy idea, but I like to live the crazy life. So this is what I propose, right? It's like shut everything down. Just stop using those applications when you're trying to focus. But that leaves you all alone, right? Now what? Now what do we do? Well, as a reminder, the title of my talk is The Internet, sorry, I forgot about that. The Internet of Things and Developer Happiness, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Connected Devices. So that brings us to the solution. This solution I'm going to present to you in 3 chapters. Chapter 1, we'll build it. And when I say build it, I'm talking about building a connected device, right? And so you start, at least I like to start, with the physical components and figure out what my circuit's going to look like and how I'm going to interact with it. And so I decided to build something really simple for this presentation, something I'd like to extend as I go on if it's a concept that resonates with folks. And this is 6 types of components, right? We have an RGB LED, a common cathode. You can ask me about that if you're curious. A momentary switch, also known as a button. Some resistors, various impedance. I don't even know if I pronounced that right. But and then jumpers, which are just little wires with ends that make it easy to stick into breadboards. And then obviously we need a microcontroller of some kind. And I'm partial to the particle photon. I did work with them for some time. And so this is what the schematic looks like for what I'm going to show you. I've actually done a little permaproto version of it here. And you'll all get to see this here shortly. But to go into kind of some the details, right? We have an RGB LED. And then that's hooked up, well, we've got button, right? And then the resistors. And I could go into all the details of why you need them. But basically, the long story short is you have a certain amount of voltage going through from your microcontroller. And a lot of LEDs, they don't want all of it. So convert some of it into heat, and then you won't pop your LED. So that's pretty simple, right? You just, I'm glossing over some of the details, but you're just going to plug in some wires to some things, and then it's going to work perfectly, and you're not going to have to sit there staring at a mess of wires at all. So then we move on to programming, right? And the programming is in this instance, it's divided up into a couple things. We have the devicey codes, and that's the code that lives on the device. And that looks like this. It's pretty simple. I've cut out some of the extraneous stuff you don't even worry about. But on an Arduino-like thing like this, a microcontroller, you write everything in a loop, kind of like Node, not as complicated. And so what I've done here is we've got, we're connecting the client. We're giving the client a little iteration on the loop. And then we're doing logic to see if the button has been pressed, right? So if the value of pressed is high, right, we do a digital read on the pin. Again, I don't want to go into all the details, but if you're curious, please do come and talk to me afterwards. And most of the logic here is just really in making sure that we don't spam our servers with, someone holds down the button, right? We want to kind of rate limit it a little bit. And then we do this really, crufty JSON stuff because it's C, and there's nothing simple about C, so it takes a bunch of commands. And so now we're outputting some MQTT data, which is just kind of a low-level transport for embedded and constrained devices. Now we're outputting data, like whenever this button gets pressed, we're sending it somewhere to the cloud. And speaking of the cloud, we also have some code running in the cloud. And this is me just really haphazardly extending a readable stream to slurp data out of Twitter and start piping it somewhere. Which, a quick aside, I had to edit this because I updated Babel, and all of a sudden I couldn't destructure anymore. It really pissed me off. So I put a little annotation there. Someone fix that for me, please, because it was really annoying. And so then, going down into the actual guts of how the Twitter stream works, and if any of you have played with Twitter, it's pretty familiar. But we're filtering statuses, and we're tracking whatever we've passed in as the filter. In this case, it's the node conf London hashtag. And so If we get Twitter data, we just worried about the text, right? And then from there, we create a pixel stream, which is, again, haphazardly extended transform stream. And all we do there is we try to look for something in the string that looks like it could be a hex code or an actual CSS color value, much similar to how Cass's sash works. Oh, sorry, yeah, I forgot this is London. Last minute fix there for you. Don't want to offend anyone. And then our third and final stream is the device stream, which is a haphazardly extended writable stream. Most of these things you don't really need to worry about. We're really just looking at the right implementation. And all we're doing is just grabbing RGB data and kind of shoving it into a format that's going to be easy to deal with on the device in C, with the lack of all those nice string manipulation functions. So that brings us to actually putting all this cloudy code together, right? And so you put all of your super secret stuff in there, which I was smart enough to filter out for you. I don't know why, but anyway. So then basically it really just comes down to piping, right? Pretty straightforward, very familiar idiom for a lot of us, right? Like how many of us have piped? I mean in code. Okay. Cool. So that brings us already to chapter 3, which is to visualize it, right? Like visualize in your mind's eye, or maybe your actual eyes. And this is where we come to audience participation time, which is, as we all know, everyone's favorite. So I'd like to hand this out. I'd like you all to take turns pressing the button, pass it around. And we have a goal. I won't tell you what the goal is yet, but I'd just like everyone to take a turn pressing the button. Stop. Yeah, oh, well, don't hold it down. Yeah, just press it. There you go. Ooh, right? So yeah, pass it around. And while people are pressing the button, if you have your Twitter client open, you can also tweet to node Conf London any CSS color, whether it's a hex value, or like I said, the actual CSS color name. So yeah, hex codes or name colors. One of my favorites is lemon chiffon. So an example of a tweet would be node Conf London cyan, right? And so real quick, I just realized I forgot to actually start my daemon that helps with the other side of that. So now I've switched screens somehow. Technical difficulties abound. One second here. X, thank you. Whoever said that, thank you. OK. All right. So yes, like I said, lemon chiffon is one of my favorites. This is how you can tweet to it. And so hopefully what you'll be noticing as you pass it around is as people tweet, if they do tweet, the little RGB LED on it should start changing color. And as people press the button, you should start seeing tweets from me about that fact. So that brings us to the other side of visualizing, which is dashboards, which is everyone's favorite thing to talk about. And so I'd like you all to, if you will, if you have the bandwidth, take a look at this dashboard that I've built. I'll pull it up here as well. So here's a dashboard that I haphazardly made moments before getting on stage here. And let's do full screen here. So what you're seeing here, here's the goal that I mentioned earlier. My goal is to have 100 presses of the button before my presentation is done. And this shows roughly how much the button is being pressed. And so now we're just going to sit here and stare at this dashboard for a while everyone passes this little device around. But at this point, I'm sure you're all kind of wondering, why did I call this IoT and developer happiness? And why am I showing you a dashboard? Why am I passing around some random hacky board that got me in a lot of trouble at the TSA? And the reality is that this, to me anyway, and hopefully it is to you as well, this represents kind of the minimum viable product for some kind of connected device, something that could actually serve real-world value for you, some kind of functionality that is not as easy to automate without the addition of some physical aspect. And so this presentation, this is one of the first times I've given a presentation of this particular nature, because I'm trying to figure out what the best way is to get more developers who are fairly disinterested in the idea of IoT into the idea of IoT, because I personally believe that it is something very compelling personally, but also tremendous potential for kind of improving our daily lives in many number of ways. And in one aspect of that is just the concept of improving our daily developer lives. And so originally I was hoping to show integrations from Slack, beyond just Twitter, maybe Travis or something like that. Unfortunately, like I said, I spent a little too much time waiting for the UK police to show up instead. So no excuses. But anyway, how are we on time? Do you know?
Just keep going. We're good.
Really? OK. I'm worried I'm like running short. I don't know if I need to fill any.
I'll
OK, great. But yeah, so I mean that's pretty much the long and the short of what I wanted to say to you today. Is basically stop worrying, do your job, and come talk to me, and I will help you build a neat little physical device that can serve as a stand-in for a physical alert beacon to help you make sure that you're not going to just drift off into nowhere and lose track of what your colleagues and friends are doing and saying. So you can do a ton with just a button, an RGB LED, and a nice cloud platform, like Losant or Particle. And so that's pretty much it. Again, this is me. You can and should follow me on Twitter if anything I said was somewhat interesting to you. And that is it. That is all I have to say, unless anyone has questions. Or if the board.
We'll do questions in Gitter.
Oh, in Gitter. OK.
Awesome. So can we have a big round of applause?
Why, thank you.